Hello guys and welcome to this SQL tutorial. So let's get started. Let's open up Sublime right here, and here's what we're going to explain first. So what are databases? They're a structured set of data held in a computer, especially one accessible to the user. Databases have tables in which data is stored, and tables are most often represented with a starting number that changes on every entry for easier use and for each use. Most often it is called ID, and its type is serial. Serial primary key ID is the ID that changes every time user enters something new. It doesn't have to be manually inserted, it inserts changes itself. So what is a database management system? Database management system is a program that serves user data from a database. It helps the creator in easier understanding of his database, and it captures new data for further analysis and use. Here's some examples of database management systems. What is an RDBMS? An example of it is Postgres. I've worked in Postgres, and I'm going to show basics based on what I've learned in Postgres. The most common database management system is the RDBMS itself. It means Relational Database Management System. There can also be a hierarchical, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Okay, so how do I write SQL and where? You can write it in pretty much any text editor, but where you're going to execute it is you're going to execute it on your database. So I'm writing it in Sublime. Okay, so what are tables? Tables are places where we hold information in database. And here's how we're going to create a table. Drop table if exists user. So what this does is basically says, can you just remove all the tables that are called users and they exist? Because we're going to make a new table. And the server says, okay, this semicolon represents the end of our code, if you can call it like that. Okay, and you have to put it on every operation you do, like I did here. Then we have create table users. It's pretty clean what this does. It creates table users, and we open the brackets and close them here. So once we open them, we define stuff that is gonna be in the table, in the columns of the table and stuff. ID, serial primary key, is what I talked about. This means this key is primary, which means it can be a foreign key in some other table, which means you can transfer data from this key to another table. That table can read this ID serial primary key, the other table, as a foreign key, and it can give us this information, making it linked together. Right, so how does this work? Well, we first define the name of how we want to call our thing that we're going to add to the database. In this case, it's called ID, and what kind of type it is. It's serial here, and then property. For example, we have username here, and it's varchar20, which means it's basically varchar says what is the max amount of symbols that we can write inside and like keep it valid. So we want our username to be shorter than 20, so we just put varchar20. We can also put text, which doesn't really have a limit. You can just type in anything. Okay, so anyways, so username is varchar20, not null unique. So what this means is it can't be empty. We need a username, and unique means it has to be unique, which is obvious. And then you have a password, which is textual, and it's not null, so we also have to have a password. Then you have a postal code, which is numeric, which means it's a number, and you have a city, which is just text. Okay, so instead of, well, we can use varchar or we can use char. Char says what is the exact number of symbols that has to be. So if we specify 20, our usernames are all supposed to be 20 then. Okay, so this is a comment. When you put double of these, you can just put them like this, and this is going to be a comment. And then this is an example of how to insert data inside a table. So like imagine the table like this. Let me show you. So this is the table so far, only this. Like it has the columns, but there's no data inside. And now we're going to import this. So what we're doing here is going insert into users, username and password. So what this does is inserts this and this. We don't have to insert ID because it's already serial. It's going to insert itself. And we do not have to insert these because they're not specified with not null. So they're not really required. We can do it if we want to. And so we're inserting only username and password, and username is John Tail and password is unicorn32. So if we want to insert these two, we're going to have to add them here. So we're going to have to add postal code and city. And then we're going to have to add the data, which is going to be this. There we go. I mean, I know this is not a postal code of London, but I just put it there. All right, so once we execute this in our table, database, we're gonna get something like this. So we have ID1, John Tail Unicorn. Actually, it's Unicorn 32, I think. Let me see, yeah. And the postal code and the city. This is something like how it would look, similar. It would just be displayed more nicely. Then we have options of select. So once you've done, once you inserted all the data inside the database, you can actually go ahead and select it and just like display it. In order to display that, you need to use select. So what this does is it says select all from users. And that's what's going to do. It's going to select all from users. And if you want to select something specific, you can go select all from users where ID equals 1. So that means select all from users where ID equals 1 means, well, we don't have much users with ID equals 1 because it's serial. It changes every time. So that means we only have one user. So we're going to get John Tail. And then we have select users.username. So here's how you call something from users. So we have users, right? And we have username inside. If you want to get just the username, we're going to have to call it like this, from users username. So select users.username from users, where users.username, which is this, is like. So I like is basically saying, it's the same thing. You also have like, but like is case sensitive. So that means, well, it's actually like if you have John with not a capital letter, and you write it like this, and you have it up here with a capital letter, it's not gonna find it. What I like does is ignores that, and I'm not sure if this works in every database management system because you see it's white, but you can also always use like, and just type in your data like with small letters. That's what most people do. Also, you have these percentages. Why did we put them here? Well, this basically means everything before John doesn't matter and everything after John doesn't matter. So that means this is not going to get in our way and it's going to select John. So this is probably the best way to do it. If you're searching for something specific like this, we can do select all from users where users.city is like I like London. So this is specific. If it's big L and it's London like this, it's gonna find it, it's fine. You can also do select user.city. There we go. And then we have another table, create table products, and it has an ID serial key. And we already talked about this. And then we have a product type, for example, and it's also a varchar 20, not null and unique. And we have a movie title, which is a text, and we have a price integer check. All right, so this is a great example. You can also check, for example, numeric values for this. If a price is less than 0, that's not good. So we need to have a valid price, so it has to be larger than 0. Great, so we've done that, we've defined these, so let's insert some data into it. All right, insert into products, product type, movie title, and price. So these are the ones. And we have movie, which is a product type, and the movie name, Fast and Furious 16, and the price 23, let's say $23. And then buyer ID integer references. Let me just show you this as well. So this is a bit more complex. What this does, I'm going to explain it, but it's too complex for a basics tutorial. Buyer ID integer. So we pretty much called it a number, and then we said references. So what does it reference? It references movies ID. Well, we can't do that because we don't have a table of movies, but it references users ID. So what this does is it's going to reference from some other table, in this case users, and its ID, which is a serial primary key. So if it's a primary key, it's going to be a good link. So once you link that and primary key changes and stuff like that, you can link database like that. And it says on delete cascade. So this is another thing that I wanted to show you is if you usually on delete, it restricts everything that's connected between two tables. And it says like, okay, this is connected, this is not good. But in this case, it will cascade. Okay, so that's it. So there's also joins. What are joins? Joins are parts of select statements which you can add to join one table onto the other and display information. And with that, displaying them, you can connect them in a specific order. And you can also use unions, but they're like really messy. They also they kind of put one table on top of the other. And let me just show you an example of joins. Select column name, which is our like one of the table 1 listings. So let's say it's here, column name. So select column name from table 1, which is our table, and then left join table 2 on column name, which means we're going to join on table 1's column name, table 2's column name. All right. So meaning we will join all the data from table 1 onto table 2. However, the data from table 2 will not be joined. Only the data from table 2 that these two tables have in common. So that means that's why it's called left join. If you do right join, it's going to be the opposite. So it's going to join all the data from right table, which is in this case table 2, and it's going to join all the common stuff as well. So like what they have in common. Okay, so types of joins are inner join, left join, right join, and there's also full outer join, like in, but it depends on the database management system, like in Postgres. And I also want to show you what is a cross foot notation. By the way, I showed you these tables. These are table examples, what they could look like, you know, roughly. And once you insert the data. All right, so what is cross-foot? Cross-foot is a notation, is a system of displaying table relationships. So when you connect tables, there's two types of connections. You can connect them 0 or 1 and 1 or more. So let me just show you. I think I have a drawing here. Yeah, I do. All right, so we got table 1 and we want to link it to table 2. So our relation can be 0 or 1. So this means 0 and this means 1. So that means we can have 0 stuff in table 2, but we have to have something in table 1. Or we can have in table 1 one thing or more things in table 2. Usually it's these three. That's why it looks like crow's foot. And here's a real example. So these both are included here. Now let me just show you how it works. So we have I like to look at them from the inside and then from the outside, but you can also look at them other ways. I don't know, people have talked about reading it from left to right. I don't know. Anyways, so here's how I read it. So we can have 0 programming classes, but you can also have a teacher. He doesn't have to do programming. He can maybe be a biology teacher. But when we have more programming classes, we need to have one teacher. So when we have one teacher, he can have more programming classes. But when we have a programming class, we also have to have one teacher. So this is why the programming class can be 0. It can be 0, but teacher is still going to exist, right? So this is where it gets a little bit complex, maybe logical in some way, logic related. But it's not that hard to figure out. And this is as far as the basics is concerned. Like this is really going forward to advanced. I don't think this is basics anymore because I've talked about it plenty. All right, so thank you so much for watching and have a nice day.